Hello and welcome to Give the Lady Drummer Some Friday. I'm Jyn Yates. You're on Jyneration Nation, LRS102.com. And I'm super pumped on Friday because I have Lindsay Martin up in the studio. How are you doing, Lindsay?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Fantastic. And I'm so happy to finally get you on the show. I've been trying for a while now.
Yeah, and I'm excited.
Yes. Right on. So I first got hit to you prior to us actually meeting on Zoom with
Yeah.
Mindy Albowitz, who I love so much. I love Mindy.
Yes. She's
But
fantastic.
yes,
Yeah, she's right.
right? We're going to talk a little bit about Tom Tom too. But I got hip to you. I think it was Tammy Mitchell Woods or somebody in the Drummer Girls United post some of your drum videos. And I was like, wow, this chick is really good. And then we ended up in the documentary, The Beat Keepers together.
Yes.
Yeah. And I kept watching. I went to the Nashville premiere of that, and I had to sit on the panel where they ask you questions after the show. And I kept going, who's this one chick? And it was you the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. You're really freaking good. And I don't know our age differences, but I'm assuming we're probably close in age, maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm a little older. I'm 41. So.
How old do you think I am?
I don't know. My guess would be 30s is my guess, but you might be 20s. I don't know.
Thank you. I'm 26.
Okay. Wow, you're so good for 26. That's so amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the video was, but either way, we got hip to each other that way. And then later on, we ended up getting to teach the same week for TomTom.com. So we run a couple of Zoom conferences.
I had such a blast doing that. Oh my gosh, I loved it. That was just so cool.
Yeah. You know, Mindy, I've been I've been a big fan of hers for a long time, and I used to write some of their drum notation for Tom Tom when they first came out years ago, and then just got busy and lost track. And then all of a sudden, when the quarantine hit, she said, hey, I'm having female drummers teach lessons. And I thought, what a great idea that is.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah, not like disregarding the guys, but I think just like having a female drummer it makes a difference, you know? And like, I think it's so rad seeing chick drummers anyway, you know?
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I say it all the time.
The boys, but, you know.
Yeah, they always get some. That's why this is Give the Lady Drummer Some, because it's about time. It's about damn time.
It really freaking is, yes. Totally.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about your lessons later on, but I really want to get started and ask you about your career and how you got into drumming. That's really what I want to know.
Drumming started for me when I was 9 years old. I got tired of playing piano. I grew up playing piano, you know, learning it. And I reached a point like, I don't want to play piano anymore. And literally, I'm not kidding. When my dad started playing Led Zeppelin, that was it. Like, there's just something clicked in my mind, like, what is the drums? And it's just 17 years later, here we are. You know?
Yeah. And I can already see that your career's you're already doing great, but I can only see it going up from here because, man, I can remember being 26 and I definitely I felt like I wasn't playing at my prime then, but when I go back and listen to the rock records I did back in my 20s, I was like, wow, I'm like tapping myself on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Those are pretty damn good drum parts, you know, that you're coming up with and stuff. So, and now as I get a little bit older, in my 40s, I've suffered some nerve damage in my hand. So it's really hard for me to like hit hard like I used to and do all these things. Like I notice when I do Wipeout now, it's really hard for me to get through when I used to like just pound through that thing, you know. And
are you okay now? Are your hands okay now?
No, it's weird. It's like waking up. I took a fall, and because of the fall, there was an injury in the neck that it's the nerves that go down to your hands.
Okay. All right.
Because of that, like the last three fingers, they almost feel like pins and needles all the time. So when I grab drumsticks, I'm playing my snare and getting that vibration. Sometimes it sends shocks to my body, and it's really scary.
Holy moly! Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, and I used to push myself really hard, like playing, you know, there was a day that I played like 14 hours out of 24 total. And just, I would push my body in ways like, well, talking about Led Zeppelin, I mean, Bonham would push his body.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you try to get through good times, bad times, then you know, he was really like physically tough to keep up with. But again, I saw his son in concert not too long ago.
Yeah.
And Jason was talking about how he has to take breaks when he's doing his dad's work because he was like, remember, my dad was in his 20s. I'm in my 40s and 50s.
Holy smokes. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. But people like Dorothea Taylor and Viola Smith, gosh. I'm like, Viola's 107 and still playing drums.
It's like, I want to keep playing. Like, my friends would ask me, how long do you think you're going to play? I'm like, what kind of question is that? I'm going to play as long as I can. There's no age limit on this, until my body says I'm done. Like, no, like, I'm going to play until, let's say I'm, however,
Yeah, exactly. But, have you ever experienced any kind of physical ailments yet? I mean, 26 is pretty young to go through something like that, but.
Well, I don't want to say it's funny you talk about your hand stuff, because I don't know if I told you, I have a rare, like, skin disorder, like genetic skin disorder. Mm-hmm. And the scientific name for it is called epidermolysis bullosa, also known as EB. And what that is like I'm missing like proteins and stuff in my skin. So I get blisters and scabs very, very easily. Mm-hmm. So kind of what you have to go through. Mm-hmm. If I have long practice sessions, I get blisters, like crazy blisters on my hands. And it feels like my hands are on fire, pins and needles. It's horrible. My hands are extremely callous now. I get blisters on my feet from practicing like for long hours. It's because of like things like holding the stick for that long, whether it's sweat or friction, I'll get blisters from it. Wow. So what I have to do if I have long practice sessions, gigs, whatever, I'll go home. I put my hands, like wrap my hands in like Vaseline and then put gloves over them. And then overnight, I kind of just let them heal that way. Mm-hmm. So I can go back the next day and practice, or I'll have to wrap my hands, so on and so forth. But, I've had it my whole
dedication.
Life. Yeah, and like you find ways to overcome things if you love it, like I'm sure with you, you're not going to let it stop you because you love drumming.
No, great, yeah.
You just find ways to adapt.
Yeah, it's hard for me because drums have always been in my life. I was telling you, my dad put me on a kid. Mm-hmm. My dad was a professional drummer, and he kind of toured around, from the age 10 on in Kentucky and some of the surrounding states. And I don't have any memories without a drum set around my life, so I can't imagine like not being able to do that,
Yeah, it's like you just can't picture without it at all. I mean, I know I can't for sure. There's no way.
Right. So did you, like growing up, I want you to kind of take us through the journey. Growing up, you get interested in drums, you bypass piano, which by the way, it is good to know piano because melody lines.
I'm so glad my mom had us do piano. Trust me, I was kicking and screaming every time we had to practice and crying and the whole bit because I didn't want to play piano. I'm so glad she forced us to do it. Thank you, Mom. But growing up, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm from like a very small town, like on a farm, the whole shebang. So
awesome. That's where I am right now.
Yeah,
in Kentucky.
That's where I am now. Like I flew home to visit my mom for her birthday, and it's just so peaceful. But anyway.
Yeah, so where are you, just so we know, our listeners?
I am in upstate New York.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, literally smack dab middle of nowhere, but it's all good. So growing up, which was cool and fortunate for me, since I went to a small school, I was involved with like any musical aspect, whether it was like chorus, drama club, marching band, jazz band, all that stuff. I just submerged myself in it.
I love that.
So I was doing that, practicing at home, hours on end, and I was in bands and taking lessons and all that stuff. And I think freshman year of high school is when I realized this is what I want to do. I don't believe really in backup plans. Like I got to put 110% into this and see where it takes me,
Yeah. Well, I love your chops. You've got great chops, and you can definitely tell you've had good backgrounds and good instructors and that whole nine,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it's so important in the beginning stages to hone in the building blocks.
I agree.
Technique, and it's just everything, Obviously, it's a pain in the butt doing the same thing over and over, but that stuff is so crucial.
Yeah, that's the number one thing I get a lot because I've been teaching for 14 years and mostly kids, but cool. I also have taken adults and stuff. And I kind of jumped on the teaching online thing like 7 years ago, so I kind of already had a heads up by the time this Corona stuff hit. And had a really good foundation with it and was like, okay, I may not lose my job, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's the number one thing I get when I get students is they immediately want to be like, a John Bonham. And I'm like, trust me, you put in the time. We've all put in the time. If you want to study and be a master, you've got to put in the time. I know paradiddles are boring, but you got to do them.
Yeah, it's like no one wants to do that, but it's like you're not going to become great overnight, and you have to learn with whether you're an athlete, musician, whatever the case may be, you have to learn those fundamentals. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's going to backfire,
Yeah. What was the defining moment where you were like, wow, could do this like full time and be okay?
Oof. I don't know if maybe once I moved to LA, honestly. So, all throughout high school and stuff, I knew I'm going to find a way to make this happen. I don't know how, I don't know what yet, but I'm going to find a way. Once I moved to LA, I was in college for a little bit. I'm like, holy crap, okay, like I am here. I am literally in LA, surrounded by musicians. I'm seeing what they're doing. Like, this is the time. Now I got to do it, And, I went to college for a year and then ended up dropping out. And then I think the transition between dropping out, not having a job, not knowing what direction was next, like music wise, I think that was like the true defining moment. Was like, okay, here we are, Lindsay. Like you got to get creative. You got to do what you got to do to make your dream truly come true. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
You got to have that hustle kind of mindset, and getting creative and meeting tons of people, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Networking is a large part of it. I've tried to network, as much as possible over the years. And every time that I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to give this up because I'm just like, why am I chasing this crazy dream? And being 40 something years old and never having focused on a family life or, literally I just threw myself in my career and that's all it's been my whole life. Never had kids, never got married, just always been career focused. And then you're like, oh God, I'm 40s and maybe now I should focus, but every time I would go to give it up, something magical would happen. Like you're talking about, like,
it's funny I don't want to say it's funny, but when you have those moments of feeling down and like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to click? That's when something happens.
It is. It always is.
I've had plenty of times and my friends will ask me, oh, it looks great. I'm like, guys, you don't see the ugly side when I'm in my studio sobbing.
Right, crying.
Like, contemplating my life. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm staring at my drums. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm crying. And it's those moments where it's like something happens. You know? Just, I don't know how to describe it. You get it.
Yeah,
like,
I do. Well, and I truly believe in a higher power, and I truly believe that God is like directing my life. And, like I said, I've been just like you. I've been in rooms crying, pulling my hair out, losing bands after bands, going, this is not the direction I wanted to take. And now looking back, I feel like that all happened for a reason because of the band's loss, because I've been in so many bands over the years, and I was kind of a side player for a long time.
Okay, cool.
And then eventually I kept getting labeled as a rock drummer, but I had all the schooling, I had the jazz background and the, all this cool stuff that I'd done, all these different styles. And so finally I was like, I'm going to start doing theater and orchestra to prove these people wrong because I was labeled as a drummer and or as a rock drummer. And so then I started, really taking on some major roles like Les Mis and timpani and, reading through scores and
that's so cool.
Yeah, and all this stuff. And finally I feel like because of all that stuff happening back in the day with me losing bands and stuff, it helped me separate my name, and be known as a drummer and not just like, because the first thing we always get is, well, what band are you in? I hate that question.
That has to be what band are you? Who are you playing with? I'm like,
and I'm like, well, I play with 20 different bands and I've done a lot of stuff. It's not just about a band. Yeah,
there's more to it. I feel like
I have a little quote that I always try to put online. I was like, you don't have to have a band to be great, and I feel like that's a true statement.
That is so true. Yes, 110%. Absolutely. You don't.
As my dad says, because, my dad's very musically inclined, he talks a lot about, a great musician can take a piece of crap instrument and still make it sound good, It's kind of true.
Yes, that is so true. It's so true.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Really? Yeah, I mean, so every now and then I might pick up a washboard and play that or some spoons or just something wacky, because I'm like you do have to separate yourself apart, and being different, I feel like is you got to embrace that, you know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And it took me a long time too, because I was also LGBT. So it was like not only a female drummer, but an LGBTQ female drummer. And, took a lot of flack for that because I didn't look like the normal, I wasn't wearing the skirts to play in. And I've just never been that type of like super feminine type of character.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, to see how that panned out later on. But yeah, I do believe that, you have to embrace your different, and I say this to my students all the time too. And it's the same with anything like, The Voice or any of those like competition stuff that people do. You don't want to mock somebody, like I don't want to go in mocking John Bonham all the time. I want to make stuff my own and then take from his influences and put them in fluttered throughout my stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever the song calls for.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that is the key is like, we need individuality today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No one wants copycats. I don't like it. You want to take all your influences and make it into your own I can't even talk, individuality, your own authenticity. That's what's going to make you.
Yes, and that's what makes you stand out, I feel like.
Exactly, because you're not going to be the next Bonham. You're not going to be the next Tommy Lee. You know what I mean? Right. Nobody wants that anyway. Be you.
Right, I agree.
That's what you're going to be remembered for,
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times when you're younger, you're so smart at 26 to figure that out already, because it took me many, many years after 26 to figure that out, how to embrace, how to love myself for who I am and what I was born with, and how to separate myself, even though it was different. So since we're speaking of influences, though, who were your main influences growing up when it comes to drum set playing?
Well, the first two immediately when I started was Tommy Lee and Bonham.
Right.
Tommy, I was a very shy kid, like so quiet, like just so shy. So Tommy, for me, when I started seeing him, like, whoa, he's so like theatrical and just like,
over the top.
Yeah, and then Bonham with his chops, I'm like, what I mean?
Yeah, there's still drummers trying to figure out what Bonham did, I don't even know if he knew what he was doing at the time.
Probably not. But
yeah.
Oh, gosh. So those two were the ones. But
I love Bonham. I've studied almost everything he does, and I love Tommy Lee, too. I've always been a rocker at heart,
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, all the way. Yeah. But I was going to say, it always blew my mind because I don't know where you stand on sobriety and stuff like that. But, the fact that Bonham was basically kind of, he drank a lot. We know this. Yeah. And, he died from alcohol poisoning. And his little rings on his circle, his little logo, they say that those came from him setting his beer glass down on the bar on a napkin, and he was like, I want the 3 rings to be my logo kind of thing. But, to think about how much alcohol intake that he was doing back in those days and playing some of the stuff that he was playing is mind-blowing to me.
I could not even imagine. He's a phenomenal drummer. And then let alone being induced with all that alcohol. How? Like, I remember I got my one stupid mistake, and it was awful. I decided to do shots at a gig.
Oh, Lord.
I whatever. Oh, my gosh. Towards the end, I don't know what the hell I was playing. It was so awful. I'm like, I am never doing this again. That's a terrible idea. So, like, let alone someone who's drinking to that capacity and playing Zeppelin.
Yeah.
That's like on a whole other planet.
I agree. It blows my mind how times have changed because, if you talk to anybody from the 60s and 70s who was drumming back then, they'll always say, well, it was always a party, and then nowadays I find myself working with people who are completely sober, which is what I like, because I've been in lots of situations that were definitely like the musicality was compromised because of somebody's alcohol intake or whatever they were doing at the time. But all the pros today, it definitely seem to be way more sober. And I've even had to sign contracts to go on tour to like promise I wouldn't take a sip of alcohol, and I didn't. But at the time, to think about what Bonham was doing.
Oh my God.
and under the influence is like pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, there's no way. No.
Yeah. Were you familiar with like any female drummers growing up, like drum set players?
Not when I just started. I think the big ones, and what's kind of cool, it's funny how kind of things happen in life. So I remember when I was younger, let's say, I don't know how old I was, 15, 16, whatever. We used to go to California a lot. My dad's best friend was out there and I fell in love with California. I remember seeing little flyers for like the Iron Maidens and all those female metal bands. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, these chicks are badass. Like,
Linda McDonald, man, she's a friend of mine.
Yeah, no, I love Linda. She's like a homie of mine, and she has a studio like 2 doors down from me. And I remember I would take those flyers, put them next to my drum set. I'm like, I want to be like those girls one day. And you flash forward 5-10 years later, I'm playing with like half those girls.
Cool.
I'm friends with them, and I'm like, you know what? That to me, just like, I think things came full circle. I had it there. Like, I want to be like those girls. Like, they were my heroes, my role models. And ever since that, I'm like, well, hell, like, I want to be like them. I want to kind of leave a mark. And like, I kind of went on a tangent, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, do it. We got an hour, so you're good.
It was just, so I think when I first started, I didn't know many female musicians. Maybe it wasn't as common. Maybe I just didn't, I don't know. Drumming was a whole new world to me, and all I saw was a bunch of dudes. I'm like, why isn't there more girls?
Right.
You know, I heard of Sheila E. and, you know, the Cindy Blackman and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think since I was such a metalhead, like just full like rocker girl, like, you know, I didn't know of many rock drummers, you know, female. And then
I remember seeing and talking about the more metal stuff that Kitty Mercedes from Kitty. Do you know that band?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Kitty,
she's a pretty like thick, strong player. You know, there's some big old girls out there that are drumming right now.
Oh yeah. Oh totally.
Yeah, and I love the heavier stuff, but my body, I feel like cannot physically play it that much anymore. I hate that. But you know, I grew up playing the double kicks and all that stuff. And
that's my favorite. Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of Motley Crue, I mean, I remember when I first bought CDs, like when the cassette tape to CD changeover happened, one of the first tapes, you know, and into CDs I had was Dr. Feelgood. I remember opening that thing up and being like, whoa, these dudes look like chicks. I love the glam rock stuff, you know.
Oh, Molly's my favorite on the entire planet. Love. Like, oh my gosh, they look like girls. They're super cute. Oh my gosh, I got to play this stuff.
Yeah. I love that. Can I tell you about my full circle moment? You were talking about a full circle moment. It involves California. And I have I've never been, you know, I had never been to California at this point, but I was, I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, kind of like you, but in Kentucky on, you know, in Farmlandville, basically, with like 3,600 people. You know, this big. So I left to go to, and I was already playing drums from the time I was 3. So I had a couple like garage bands and country Southern rock bands. If you didn't play country Southern rock where I'm from, then you did, or bluegrass, you didn't play gigs. So I got with all these guys that were older than me, which were really helpful. And anyway, that ended up taking me to Louisville. I ended up working for Warner Brothers for a WB affiliate during the highlight of like Buffy and Dawson's Creek and all that fun stuff. So I did media for like 20 years, but I was playing music on the side like every night, you know, and playing gigs all the time and side playing and trying to record. Anyway, I ended up going on this cool audition. They were looking for a female drummer, and I thought, hey, that's my role, right? And it was for the show called Girlfriend. It was written by a guy named Todd Webster. Anyway, he basically took Matthew Sweet's record called Girlfriend from the 90s and made this whole LGBT play around it. And there was an all-female band on stage that was like a silent third character. And we played the record. And so I don't know if you know anything about that record, but definitely check it out after this. It dropped.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It dropped a week before Smells Like Teen Spirit. So Smells Like Teen Spirit knocked it off the map. And Matthew Sweet is kind of, you know, recluse dude. But that record is very gorgeous and it's very Beatles-esque. But it just dropped at the wrong time, I feel like, because grunge took over, and then that was that, you know.
Oh, God, yeah.
But that experience ended up taking me to L.A. I drummed in that, like 30-some of shows, and then it got picked up to run at the Kirk Douglas Theater in Culver City. So they called me, and they said, hey, we need a female drummer out here in L.A., and you already know the role, and you know what you're doing. So Julie Wolf hired me, and so she had toured with the Indigo Girls and Ani DeFranco and produced Carly Simon, and like she was pretty big in the music industry, like on the underground side. And she's still out in San Francisco, out in Berkeley. She has a huge recording studio out there.
Oh, dang. What?
Yeah. So I went out there and I'm playing, and they've got me behind my little plexiglass, and my bass player, like, is Vivi Rama, who is bass player for Kesha now. And, I had an all-star band, that of these chicks from Janet Robin was my lead guitarist. She had toured with, Lindsey Buckingham, and she studied under Randy Rhoads. She was the only female guitar player to study under Randy, and who wrote Crazy Train for Ozzy, if, people don't know their history. But anyway, so I'm on stage with these girls, and I'm looking out, and I was like, wow, that looks like Courtney Love, and wow, that looks like the Bangles, and wow, that looks like Bruce Valanche and Meredith Baxter Brooks, and I'm afterwards, it'd be like, hey, Courtney Love wants to come backstage and meet the all-female band. She was in the show, and I was like, holy freaking A. That was, So I got to meet, like, all these chicks that I'd grown up, like the Bangles were my jam, growing up, and the Go-Go's and all these cool people. And that was kind of my, like, wow, maybe I've made it. I'm a small town girl. And also to tie in the LGBT thing, the second day I got to LA for the first time, and by the way, they gave me my own condo on Venice Beach and my own car. And I know, and I was parking in Kirk Douglas's parking spot every day. I was like, where am I? To be from a small town and to be gay and to come out really young, and then everybody think you're weird, and then you go to LA, and the second day that I'm there in rehearsals is when the Supreme Court passed gay marriage for the United States. So my band took me to WeHo, right?
WeHo is where it's at.
West Hollywood. They took me to the Abbey the night that the gay marriage was passed. So it was a full circle moment where I'm looking at all these people going, okay, they told me I was the weird one in the country, but now there are millions of people around here just like me, and it was
absolutely.
It was a full circle moment, musically and just, life in general. It's really awesome. It's the only time I've ever been to LA, but I had the most magical moments out there, and I really loved LA. You
gotta come back to visit.
I plan on it.
Over, but
yeah, I know. Yeah. Speaking of that, like, how has the COVID-19? I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but I dropped a new music video about. It's called The COVID Hustle. It's a line dance about the COVID.
I am going to watch it. No, I didn't, but now
I'm going to roll.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I have a duo called the Kentucky Beatniks, and we're like a hip-hop acoustic duo.
What? Oh,
where I do, like, electronics and wacky things. I play, like, washboard spoons.
I'm like, okay, all right, I'm checking.
I'll send it to you tomorrow, but I wanted to... or later today. I wanted to ask, though, like, how has that changed your business? Because it's really affecting a lot of musicians out there. We can't play with the other people, which is weird.
No, I mean, it's horrible. It effing sucks. I'm just going to say
it. Go for it. You can cuss on this radio station, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. I'm not kind of. It's horrible. It fucking blows. Like, I'm not going to lie. We're during summer, and you're supposed to be all tours, festivals, all this shit. Boom, done. So now I've had to get involved with other ways of making money, which aren't music related at all, but it is what it is, and I think the positive thing out of all this is, like, it's forcing musicians to get creative with creating content, collaborating with people virtually, that's where it's at.
Have you been able to do that? Because it seems so hard to me. You know what I mean? I've tried it, and I've got an IT degree, and I'm like, it is just confusing to me. Like, unless the track is pre-recorded kind of thing.
A lot of it, I think, is like you have to, especially for drummers, like you get the mix, or you get what you're supposed to record or jam to. And I've noticed, as long as there's a click to it, and I know my part, you record it, and then either I have, like, video people that will just edit it for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not great at it, and, like, they know what they're doing. It's possible, and I think now at this point where everything's at with all this COVID stuff, we're going in that direction where that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of trial and error just to learn and figure out how to do things virtually. But once you get it.
Well, we were going to try to do, like, a live show both in two different locations. And I was like, I think that's virtually almost impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but that's what I was talking about, doing, like, a physical live show without pre-recording stuff. That is incredible.
I haven't done that yet. That would seem like a challenge.
It is.
Sure, it's been gone, but
I finally gave up and just drove to where my friend was that played music with me and was like, okay, we're just going to do it in the same room because there's no way, it's the latency issues that you get between online.
Well, that's what I think too. When you see like these like celebrities or musicians or whatever doing stuff over TV or internet, you probably know more than I do. I don't know how they do it. Like,
I think it's all pre-recorded. I saw the Stones one.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think so. From what I understand, and I've talked to a lot of other drummers about this that kind of know way more than me, is they make programs, but they're multi-million-dollar. I mean, not multi-million-dollar, but like $1,000 programs, and there's always still going to be a latency issue unless you are hardwired into like a USB kind of thing. Yeah, that's for a FireWire, and if you're in two different locations, then that can be quite crazy. Now, what everybody online's doing is recording to a track. It's like when you saw the Rolling Stones the other night when they did that thing for Gaga, I could hear the choir in the background of their track. So I was like, they're doing this to a track because they don't have choir right now. And then, of course, Charlie Watts was air drumming. So I was like, that's why he's air drumming, because there's no way he could stay with them. You know what I mean? That would make sense, yeah. Now, if they pre-record it, though, and send it over and it's clicked, hell yeah. He could stay,
that would be, Yeah. Totally. I'm like, live stuff. I'm like, how? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm the same. I'm trying to figure it all out. And I'm watching people be able, like Sharon Ranson's another really great one. She was doing all these cool videos like side by side with people. And I was like, how are you doing that? It's just mind blowing to me that we are having to get creative. Another good thing though about that is for artists like myself that I've always done mostly original music. I've done cover bands and stuff like that, but I love to write. I love the creative side of music, and I always have. And I, like you, I started on drums, but I played clarinet, piano, and saxophone, through most of my highs, like concert band type stuff. And then I would flip over during marching band and do like pit and snare and all that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the creative artist, for us, it's like, oh, thank you, Lord, because, as an artist, when you're writing, isolation is like the best thing to ever happen because we never have that time. Life is so busy that it's hard to sit in a room and write a song sometimes. But if you've got a month where you can't get out of the house,
all the time in the world,
it's like an artist's dream at the moment for songwriters and stuff like that. The creative side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a little bit easier, I feel like. But if you figure that stuff out, let me know because I'm always looking to try to learn a little bit more than what I know when it comes to the technological side. Yeah, thanks. So you came back to visit your mom, and is that just for the health of your mom and dad, or is it just to get out of LA for a little while? Or
it was her birthday, and so my sister flew in to surprise her for Mother's Day, and I'm like, you know what, she's going, I gotta go. So I just flew in to surprise her, and I haven't seen her since winter, Christmas, I think. So
okay,
yeah. So it was, we're very close family, and I'm like, you know what, like. My mom would love this, so she was very happy. And plus, with all this stuff going on, like I have time, like why not? I can help her around the house. So
it's what I keep telling my friends. Everybody's all like tortured during this, and I'm like, look, just enjoy the time that you have off because once you go back full time, you're gonna be like, oh man, I should have done this and this and this. I had all this time, know.
No, exactly. I just like I'll talk to some of my friends and stuff, and they think I'm nuts because I'm like I'm staying busy and doing all this stuff. I'm like, guys, like I'm not. If you get like kind of stagnant and just like this and that, like you're not helping. Yeah, like I'm not saying go out and rage, but just like stay busy in your home. Like it's gonna help you mentally. And it's just like they're like, why are you going back to New York? I'm like, look, I'm gonna obviously do all the protective measures, but like family is number one. Like go visit. Call, you know what I mean? It's just
I do. Yeah, and it's definitely a time period where you're like very thankful for the family that you have because I was like, without the family and friends that I have, I would be very lost and I would be also in Louisville, Kentucky. I live 2 hours away in Louisville, Kentucky. So when all this
say it, Louis, how do you say
Louisville? Yeah.
Louisville?
Yeah, it's funny. We always I can always tell somebody who doesn't know, but you say it, we like to joke and say, because we're the bourbon capital, you say it like your throat is is like numb from bourbon. Like Louisville. You say in the back of your throat. Yeah. Everybody says Louisville, and we're like, no, can't accept that.
All right, I'm gonna have
Louisville.
to practice.
Yeah, and you'll see in the video that I dropped yesterday, we're running around downtown Louisville. We were by the big Louisville Slugger bat. You know,
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing, I'm telling you, we just decided to get stupid and do a line dance.
Why not? Have fun.
Well, I was like, you know what? I kept telling Nick, my writing partner, I was like, man, everybody's so sad right now and everybody's so depressed and it's just like everybody's in this funk that they can't get out. And I was like, I want to write something fun and happy that makes people laugh because I love comedy.
Yeah, that's the best, I think, way of therapy too, is just like laughing and just, you know, I don't want to say obviously not making light of the situation, but just like, you gotta have fun. You gotta laugh and be around. Right. You know, anything.
Yeah. So when the COVID hit, my studio is in Louisville, Kentucky, but I came back to the country in Lake Cumberland down near Nashville, almost on the Kentucky line, because of I had family here and I wanted to check in on them. And I thought, well, if I could stay in this teeny tiny apartment up in Louisville, or I can come to the country and hang out with all my peeps and be on private property running around with horses and not have to deal with anybody, you know. Like city life, basically.
Why not? I feel you. I haven't even been staying in LA, honestly. I have like family friends down in Orange County, which is like an hour south of LA. And just being in like a family type of home, like with a house just around people, because they're, you know, family friends. It just, I like you. I can't imagine being kind of confined to an apartment right now.
Yeah. Same. And I'm very thankful that I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
For sure. So, before you left LA, let's say pre-COVID, you were like super busy, and LA is a pretty hard space, I think, to get your chops, you know, because there's so many people there doing the same thing.
There's so many, and it's, I was definitely staying busy, and I'm so grateful for that. Just, you know, with touring, just like other, you know, oddball gigs around town or whatever the case may be. So I also would work as a drum tech on the side.
Cool.
And no, I would always make sure I'd stay busy, and then networking. That was like a job in itself. So always going out, meeting people, and just like, it's so crucial. And I think the one thing I've noticed in LA, there's thousands of drummers, there's thousands of guitarists, you know what I mean? And I think something I've been taking away from being a musician in LA is you have to be kind of what we talked about earlier. You have to be your own person, your own authentic self, and like an individual. You know what I mean? That's what's going to separate you. Because someone could be better technically wise or chop wise, but maybe they're not the right person for that gig. They want you because of your style. You know what I mean? Just because you don't have these blazing chops, but you can have this fat groove, and it's just like so awesome. That's really what has been helping, you know, I think, with me, like getting works and so on and so forth. And I don't mean this like in a weird or arrogant way at all, but I think some of the reasons why I've gotten the gigs is because of my personality. You know, I'm dedicated to my craft. Like, I'm a hard worker. And I flat out said when I got hired to work with Juliet last summer, after my audition, I looked her in the eyeballs. I'm like, look, I want this fucking gig more than anyone else here. Yeah. And I dead set in her eyes, and I said that. And she told me the next day, she's like, Lindsay, as soon as you said that to me, I knew you were my girl.
I got cold chills when you said that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, thank you. And I'm like, I meant that. You know, I'm just pulling this out of my ass. Like, and I think she could feel it and see it.
The authenticity, for sure.
Yeah, and like, I wasn't trying to be, but
I feel like I was gonna say, I feel like that authenticity is something that we both get, we both understand coming from the country, because I feel like sometimes city folks don't quite understand a few things that country folks do. And I don't want to dog at city folk, because I love some city folk too. And I love the city life. I love them both equally. But
yes, exactly.
Coming from the country, people are more authentic. They're more, you know, what's that word that I just said? Authentic. They're more authentic. And I feel like a lot of times that they're more loyal too, you know. And I'm not saying people from the city aren't loyal, but there's so much. People are so self-absorbed, I feel like, in these bigger cities sometimes, and they don't, you know, we're in the country life. When I come back to the country life, I'm like, they definitely are, they're authentic about how they treat you and wanting to take care of you and help you and stuff like that. And I've been in the city for half of my life, and I've been in the country for half of my life. So I kind of feel
you're the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I do, but I'm also torn sometimes about, do I want to keep living in bigger cities? And only because I love the work, and I really moved to the city for work. And my whole life, people were like, go to Nashville. And I was like, I don't want to do country drumming. I was a rocker. I did not want to do country, And ironically, I did a lot of cool stuff in country music. Like I got to open up for Tim McGraw and, and meet some really cool people.
Holy moly.
Yeah, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do, So I was like, no, I'm going this way, and I went to Louisville instead. And I think that was a better decision for me, because I was able to, like you said, being authentic. I cannot speak either today. But being authentic and loving what I do and being exactly like you. I'm not for sure what's going on here, but I'm going to make this happen somehow, some way. And then I started my own business, which was a traveling music studio that basically I was teaching out of a drum studio basically at a music store. And I had like 40 kids a week that I was churning out lesson after lesson after lesson. Ooh. Yeah, I did that for like 10 years or maybe more. And so then I was like, man, I'm making great money, but my accountant was like, you got to cut the middleman out and you need to start your own business. And so I listened to her, scared as hell. And I started cutting the middleman out, and I started offering drum lessons. I will come to you. I will come to your place, and charging extra because depending on where they were. Now in LA, I don't know if you could quite do that because you don't want to be driving everywhere. Maybe, but in Kentucky, I could do that. And within 30 minutes, I can be pretty much anywhere in the city. So I started doing that, and then I started the Zoom Skype lessons, and that was like 5 years ago, and here we are, year 6, 7, and it's rocking. And my accountant said, "Give it 5 years." Yeah, so I thank goodness I did that because the music store is now shut down with the COVID stuff, and people are jumping online for lessons. And I'm like, I'm not the greatest teacher, but I did teach a lot of like autistic kids for a long time, and I taught a lot of people with disabilities. I always teach them how to read, and there's a lot of people who come to me just to learn how to read or notate or something that simple. So I am just very thankful that I, on a wing and a prayer, was like, I'm gonna try to make this happen. And I was working in political radio news, and I took about a $40,000 pay cut to do what I wanted to do instead. So I gave up the money, and I said, screw this. I'm going to do what I want to do in my late 30s, and I'm going to just wing in a prayer. And here we are today. So actually,
awesome.
I'm a big, firm believer in following your dreams. And, you will, if you want it to happen, you will make it happen. You have to believe it to happen before it will physically happen.
I totally 100% believe in that. There's no way, like, I'm not very religious, but I am pretty spiritual.
Yeah, and same.
I believe, like, if you bust your butt day in and day out, and this is a dream of yours, and you believe in it, there's no way it won't happen. I don't know. Right. I'm not saying how long it's going to take. It could take a long time, but there's just not possible for dreams, all this stuff, to not happen if you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Believe diligently.
You have to believe in yourself. That is the key, no matter what. Because I've had so many people, trust me, tell me, you're never going to make it. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. And I was always like, watch this every single time.
I would get, you're a girl. I'm like, just watch me. I would just say, watch me.
Yeah, exactly. And look at you now. You're already, 20 at 26. You've had a very nice little, run.
Things have been awesome. I'm so grateful for it. I mean, I was going to have a busy summer, and obviously things are, at first I'm like, oh my God, like I was frustrated. I'm like, you know what? Okay, this is happening. You can either cry about it, make the best of a crappy situation, and go from there. This isn't forever. It's temporary. We're all in the same boat. You know, so it's like now you gotta get creative, remain optimistic, and do what you gotta do. So when all this stuff kind of cools off, you're back at it 100%.
Yeah, you'll be back at it. I feel like right now is just a time for it's almost when I keep saying this too, when Mother Nature is like purging herself, because I feel like I'm a big believer in the environment and taking care of our environment and leaving a good environment for children, you know, future generations and stuff like that. And I do believe that when we overpopulate Earth and we trash the oceans and we do all this stuff, that at some point something's going to happen to rid of the humans, you know, to let Mother Nature like breathe a little bit. And I do feel like we're in that time period right now.
Yeah, and you see some of the pictures. Like I've seen pictures of LA pre-COVID and COVID. I'm like, holy hell! Like
you don't
beautiful.
realize
no more smog and all this other BS. I'm like, wow, this is really nice. So pretty, you know what I mean?
And the dolphins are coming back in Italy and all this cool stuff, you know. It's like Mother Nature's coming back full force, which I love.
I love it. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your gear. I want to know, like, what do you play, and what led you to those decisions?
Okay. Vader. I use Vader drumsticks.
Cool.
Vader Remo drum heads. Pork Pie drums.
I love that.
Yeah. So I've been with Pork Pie for 6 years. I met the owner at NAMM, and he kind of, when I first started out in LA, he kind of just took me under his wings. Like, look, like, I believe in you. Like, I want to make a drum set. And
I love that.
That's like my pride. That is my baby. That drum kit is
cool.
Yeah. So
I'll have to check that out. I want to see pictures. I've seen a few in the were you playing them in the documentary, The Beekeeper's Women with Rhythm? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, then I've seen them.
Yeah, and the same with Vader. I've loved Vader, and you know what? Ironically, they reached out to me when I posted some pictures with the drumstick, and like, "Hey, Lindsay, we'd love to have you on board." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, like
yeah."
And then Remo was the big cherry on top. I've loved Remo since I started playing. And it is a little difficult, I'm not going to lie, to kind of get an endorsement with them. But I knew my friends were like, just go with Evans. It's way easier. I'm like, no, I'm not going to sell out because I firmly believe in this product. And I love the product. Whether I'm playing it or I'm drum teching, I'm always like, I want Remo. I think it's a great product. They're both great products.
I use Remo myself. I love the Remos. I always have, you know, and that's old school Bonham kind of stuff too.
Exactly. Something about, I just always loved them, you know.
The black dots, I used to use those on my, I still have the black dots on my my Vista Light kit.
I love the black dots. Those are, one of my favorites. And I started kind of just, you know, working that, and eventually I sealed the deal, I think last summer, and that was like a
nice
big true for me. And
shout out to Remo. We love Remo.
Thank you, Remo. Thank you, Vader. Thank you, Pork Pie. And last summer I got a new set of Sabian, and I know that's kind of the direction I want to go in next. So I think, again, Sabian, Zildjian, Evans, they're all great companies.
Yeah. You know, there's so many great companies these days, it's almost hard to find. By the way, at Pork Pies, I use their seats. I love their thrones.
They have great thrones, too. Yeah.
Yes. And I used to work at a drum shop. It's a vintage drum shop. So, like, a lot of, we get all kinds of interesting things in, and I get to try them out first and all that. And I always did love the Pork Pie drums and the DWs and the Yamahas. You know, I'm mostly old school Ludwigs, like 60s, 70s Ludwig.
There's something just classic about those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I love the 70s drums because in the 70s is when like Ludwig started getting really interesting and experimental with their drums, like the see-through drums and the lights in the drums and the you know, the bowling ball swirls back here and the wraps. I play a 70s Black Panther Ludwig kit that's a leather wrap.
Oh my gosh. You have to send me a picture of that.
I will. I love that. That's my baby. It's actually in Louisville, but this is my I have like 3 kits right now. My dad has a bunch, but the 70s Vista Lights, the originals, are when I play live outside. And then I usually play the Black Panthers every other time. And then I also bought a little Questlove kit that I love, the little pocket kit.
Yeah.
Just like the breakbeat kind of kit, just to be able to play with a duo. Sometimes we're in like small spots and stuff like that, so I didn't want to have to load. And then I love Yamaha. Say it again.
Yamaha's great. You know what I always wanted to try, and eventually I'm going to buy myself one, is the cocktail kit.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that's gonna be the coolest freaking thing ever. I'm like,
I know.
It's like so bad.
With the beatniks, because I've been in lots of big bands, like 7 to 11 piece bands, and then I've been in like a bunch of duos, and the duos were always my creative stuff. And the beatniks, I've decided to pretty much go mostly electronic and throw in like some live drumming here and there. But
cool.
I use the Yamaha DTX just because, gosh, it's so much easier to set up, and it's like I can stand up, I can dance around like a
fool. Do all this stuff,
yeah, all this stuff that makes me more like a front person than a drummer. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of like mixing and matching, and I love an old instrument with a new instrument. Like, you know, I'll be recording a Farfisa from the '60s and then throw it in with an iPad beat or something. You know, just something different.
It's so cool to intertwine the two and the sound. You create like, oh, this is badass. Yeah,
it's so cool, and there's so many people out there that do it way better than me, but I'm just a big fan, and I like to get creative, you know, with it or whatnot.
Yeah, because why not? It's so much
I was gonna tell you can't quite see it, and I will send a picture later, but there's a gong over here, and people cannot see the gong. All right, so that gong is 3,000 years old, and it hung in the Shaolin Buddhist monk temples in Indonesia, where they took the big things and they'd ring it outside. The nipple on it is literally bigger than me. I mean, and if you stand next to it, talk about spiritual, because I love to talk about music healing and vibrational healing and therapy and stuff like that. You stand next to that thing and hit it, and it will like vibrate your entire soul with these really low frequencies. And it is just something special. I don't even know how to describe it. My dad found it, and he had an appraised, and they don't even know what to appraise the thing at, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's so
you can't tell from the pictures, but it is like 6 foot tall.
Oh my god, dang.
Yeah, you can kind of see because it's a floor.
It's a little,
yeah. Next time we're gonna say after this shit is over, because I do believe it will be over eventually, whether it be another year or not. Anytime you're touring through or passing through Kentucky, you have to stop. We call it the Drumatorium. So
I have to just seeing this alone. Oh my god! So,
I know it's funny.
It's gonna happen. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, this one right here is also a really old African drum, and it's a naked lady carved out of wood with the drum on top of her head.
Oh my god!
Yeah, can you see?
So cool. Yeah. That's so dope.
Yeah. Anyway, we would get along quite well, I'm sure. And you get.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this room that you're seeing, that's a family room that's been passed down for generations in my family. And my granny used to sit. She's been passed since I was 16, but she used to sit and play organ all the time. And my dad and me would set up 2 drum sets back to back. So when I was growing up, you know, I had schooling, but my real schooling was at home. And my dad was all into drums. He just bought a new, some kind of new Ludwig snare yesterday. It's like some super sweet, sensitive, something. Anyway, but he knows his drums, and he knows how to tune drums really well. And we would set up drum sets back to back like this, and he would play something, and then I would play. So I literally grew up more not playing with bands, but playing in a room with like just myself.
That is so cool. Yeah.
So so a lot of times I would just sit in a room and video myself over the years, and just you know, and that's just because I didn't. You know, I had bands and stuff, but it was depending on what was going on in my life at the time. But there was a lot of times where I would just sit.
Stuff too is important. Videoing yourself, or my instructor would be like, just record like even the audio on your phone. I'm like, why would I do that? He's like, Lindsay, just do it. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, he's smart.
When you think it sounds great, I'm like, holy shit, that sounds like crap. You know? Yeah. And it's a great learning tool as well, whether it's video, audio, or what. You know,
you know, I had this discussion with Daniel Glass. He was on our show last week, and I'm a huge fan of Daniel Glass. And he's freaking amazing, right? And he's so smart. Yeah. I mean, I just love the history. I'm a big history buff, so I love the history behind the drums and the you know, going back. But we were talking about the same thing, and you know, in drum lines, in high school marching bands and college marching bands, they'll have you play in front of a mirror. And a full-length mirror, and that is so that you see yourself as the world sees yourself, right? Not how you imagine yourself, But that's basically how everybody's seeing you. And I told him I did the same with my students. I'm always videoing them with their permission, obviously, but I'm always videoing them because I'm like, you have to get used to this. Somebody's going to have a camera in your face at all times now. And I don't want them to be spooked later on, you know, if I hadn't have done that and got them prepared for that. You know, because when I first had cameras on me, I would freak out a little bit. I'd be like, oh, God, and then I'd forget what I was playing. But then I started videotaping myself and watching it back from a different perspective and was getting a whole different perspective. And like you said, on, oh, God, that doesn't sound like I thought it sounded when I was sitting behind that kid. Or, you know, and I still do that. I still look at all these, like, you and Emmanuel and all these. I'm like, holy shit, I don't look nothing like any of that. You know what I mean? But it's super cool. And I'm a big fan of anybody who looks really good behind the kit, but look-wise has not always been like my specialty, you know. But thanks. But I also agree. You have to videotape yourself and also listen to yourself audio-wise from different perspectives because it's going to blow your mind when you get that other view.
Yeah, it's like it's a different perspective, you know, and it helps. It's only going to make you a better player. You know,
I agree.
It could sound 100%. Ugly, this and that, but deal with it and work on it. You know.
Yeah. So let's play. I always love to do this at the end of my show. I like to play random question time.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
All kinds of random questions. All right. So, do you have a favorite rudiment?
Favorite rudiment? Honestly, it's probably doubles.
Okay, double strokes.
Yeah, doubles.
Me too. I love a roll.
Yeah, it's just fun. I don't know, and you can just do so much with it, you know, especially in practicing, just opening up with it. I'm like,
yeah, I love doubles too. You know what mine is? Mine is the Swiss Army triplet because I just freaking love a Swiss Army triplet. I don't know what it is.
That is a good one too.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and it took me years to figure it out and get it good, but now my hands just naturally do it all the time. It's like, they just sound cool.
That one I feel like it's out of all the rudiments, that can be pretty ugly at first.
Oh yeah.
It's a train wreck.
Especially your weak hand leads. Those are tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but once you get it, I'm like, okay, this is rad. This is cool. You know.
Yeah. You know what's weird though? It's like the 5-stroke roll. I remember. I probably have known the 5-stroke roll longer than I've actually physically in my head known the 5-stroke roll. You know, because my dad would always show me this little like pattern, this marching band thing, because he was a marching band guy. On the snare, and then I would incorporate that into everything, and then later on I was like, wait, this is a 5-stroke roll. I didn't even realize it, you know, that I was doing all these rudiments. Cool. All right, are you a fan of the Beatles?
Yes, of course.
All right, awesome, good answer.
Oh yeah, of course.
I try to stay away from anybody who's like, I don't like the Beatles. I'm like, what?
I met one person, a girl I was working with, and I'm like, yeah, you know, the Beatles, and she's like, who? I'm like, excuse what? Do you know what the Beatles are? She's like, the Bug. I'm like,
no.
I about like threw up. I'm like, you got to be. I'm like, what are you, living under a rock? The Beatles, like one of the greatest bands of all time.
Right, like, yeah. First boy band of all time.
Yeah, I'm like, girl, what are you listening to? It was like mind blowing. Like, how the heck? Everyone knows the Beatles, whether you're a music person or not. You know the Beatles.
Yeah. Who's your favorite Beatle? Do you have a favorite Beatle?
Ringo.
Okay. I always expect drummers to say Ringo, but mine's George Harrison. So I'm like, I really love Harrison. I don't know. It's something about, he had a great sense of humor. You know, and he's always like in a field of gnomes, you know, and learning to play the sitar and My Sweet Lord. I love that track that he wrote.
I love. Oh,
I also loved his solo work. Like, I Got My Mind Set on You is one of my favorite videos of all time. It's just the wackiest video ever, you know, and he just had a really good sense of humor, and I feel like he was a real, like, experimental type of dude, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I loved them. By the way, I totally got to sit 10 foot away from Paul McCartney at Super Bowl this year. I went to the Super Bowl, and I look behind me, and there's Lizzo, and there's literally Paul McCartney coming out to wave, literally within 15 feet. It was pretty amazing.
Crazy. I've actually been to Ringo's house a few times.
Have you really?
He was one of our clients back in the day, and I had to bring some stuff to him, and I got to meet him.
Cool. Tell me about that.
I'm like, okay, act cool, like, don't, like, it's Ringo, like, it can't be, like,
I know.
freaks. I'm like, okay, just be cool. He was like, hey, hello, how are you? He's a kind of a germaphobe, so we had to like hit elbows.
I love that.
The nicest guy ever. Like I walked in his little studio in the back, and there was like Steve Lukather, Ringo, and I forget the other guy, but yeah, it was the coolest thing. Like, oh my god, like I'm in Ringo's house. Like, oh my god.
That's so cool.
Yeah, like absolutely gorgeous place, and a very nice guy. And his wife came out, and the dogs came out, and like just super low key. Like he acted like he was just like a normal. Yeah. Like he wasn't Ringo. You know what I mean? Like this is the coolest freaking thing ever.
Well, you know, Lady Gaga says fame doesn't change you, it changes everybody around you. And I think that that's a true statement. When you look at most of these, it's a pretty profound statement, right? Like he's still a normal dude. Just like he just had this awesome life. And we're all geeking out about his life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell, like, so I've met like a few like celebrities before, and it's like the more chill you are and not like a fangirl, but just like a normal, hey, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, they and respect that more, and they like kind of bring their walls down a bit. Yeah. I remember like, okay, don't be afraid, you know, obviously everyone knows who you are, but don't be a fangirl, just be chill.
Yeah,
you know?
Just be chill and cool.
I could kind of tell there was a shift in him when I was just like, oh my gosh, your dogs are so cute. Like, you know, obviously I'm not going to ask him about Beatles stuff, but and he became more open and receptive, just kind of talking. I'm like,
well, hell yeah, you didn't show up with a drum head begging for it to be autographed. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm like, that experience alone, I'm like, who the fuck gets to go to his house and just hang out with him?
Lindsay Martin.
Yeah. My wildest dreams would have thought this day would happen. But like that experience alone meant more to me than something signed, you know? Like, like that, yeah. And then like, it was the coolest freaking thing.
I definitely have fangirled a few times, but I always try to keep it under wraps. But I'm always like, you know, like anytime you're in a room with a celebrity and you're just not expecting it, you're just like, holy shit, you know, this is
it's well. And I think that's normal, natural, as long as you're not like crazy about it. You know, I think, you know.
Dude, Jill Sabule, do you know who she is?
Who's who?
Okay, she's a singer. She's a singer that had a hit in the late 80s, early 90s with the song called I Kissed a Girl. This is way before Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl. Okay. They just both happen to have the same name, not the same song. Anyway, I had her cassette tape when I was a kid, and it was the first time as an LGBTer that I had ever heard in music a woman talking about kissing a girl. And I was just like in the country, and I was like, wow, you know, this is interesting. We'll skip to about 4 years ago. I play in a Michigan Women's Music Festival, and I'm the house drummer, which means I get to play with all these cool artists, right? And she's one of them.
That's so fun.
Yeah, and I kind of was like, even though, you know, she was a big star to me because when I was a kid, I had the cassette tape, and I used to wear her cassette tape out. And we had this long discussion, and she's a big fan of drummers. She hired Jim Keltner to do most of her album work. And she got some heavy hitters on her stuff. Yeah, so I remember kind of fangirling a little bit, and I was like, dude, you don't understand. I was like, this is so surreal. We're in the woods, you know, talking about music, and she's best friends with Margaret Cho, too, which is really interesting. They're big buds. But I remember that moment being, like, pretty profound, being like, dude, I had your cassette tape when I was a kid, and now I'm about to drum with you? Like, this is so weird.
It's
you know?
Funny. I'm full circle. Well, I probably should have said this earlier. I'm bi, so I play in, like, kind of like a... Like,
you're the B in the LGBT.
I am. And I've been able to play, like, pride events and just, like, you know, I remember when... when I realized I was bi, remember Pussycat Dolls?
Yeah. Oh, Nicole Scherzinger is from Louisville, Kentucky. She's our claim to fame. Yes. And my bass player, Vivi Rama, out in L.A., toured with the Pussycat Dolls. She was the bass player. Yeah.
No,
I gotta hook y'all up when you're back.
Please, like, Nicole, man, I'm like, okay.
I know, like, drool.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. And then fast forward, when I Kissed a Girl came out, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely not straight. And then, you know, now like I'm doing pride events, like, you know, I'm open about it.
Yes. I tell you what, the pride circuit, I've done that for a long time, and I love the pride circuit. I always have. It's always kind of been my jam, you know, and even though sometimes early on I didn't feel like I felt it, I didn't feel like I felt like I was a part of the LGBT for a long time, even though I was out for 25 years. I felt more comfortable with the musician scene. Like that, those were my people, you know. And in the musician scene, sometimes I feel like women can be very androgynous, so people kind of give them a pass of like, oh, they're probably, you know, they probably just look gay and they're straight or whatever the stereotype is, you know.
Yeah.
But the Pride circuit is a really cool circuit, and you can literally make a ton of money off that circuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good one to be in, and just like the community there.
Yes.
I mean, a musician or not, it's an awesome community to be part of. But
I agree.
Like, so much fun.
Yeah. In fact, the only bars that I actually play today, and this is only just my personal choice, just because, you know, I tried to like curb my alcohol intake, and I just was getting out of control, and I didn't want to be that person. So I kind of stepped away from the bar scene a lot, and I told you I kind of took more theater and stuff. And me and Dorothea were talking about this too. She did the exact same thing. There was a time period where she was married, and her husband, you know, was like, God, you're coming home from these bars every night, and people are throwing themselves at you, and they're trying to get you drunk. And, you know, that's the life of a musician if you play bars. So I tried to step away from that like her and get out of that scene and do more festivals, you know, corporate gigs, the things that actually pay money and keep you away from kind of all that a little bit.
I completely understand. Bars are fun. I think you reach a certain point, it's like, okay, like it's great, but I want to go further.
Right.
And there's more bar scene.
Yeah. And I'm probably a lot like you. I'm always looking for gigs that kind of like, you know, aren't the normal type gigs. I want to be challenged, and I want to be challenged musically, and I want to play with people who will make me better. And so I'm always looking for something that's going to scare me to death. I always say that, take gigs that scare the crap out of you, because you got to. If
you're comfortable or not scared, then something's not right.
Yeah.
Like you want to you know, when I first started out, my teacher would be like, play with people who are better than you. I'm like, why? That sounds terrifying. Like they're going to force you only to be better.
Right.
Like, you know, and I'm so glad I did that. Like, you know, when I was playing in bands with Nita Strauss and Courtney from the Maidens, like, I was terrified. Like, we had rehearsals. I was dreading rehearsals because I was so scared, because they're awesome. But it only pushed me to become a better player.
Yeah.
Like, I was practicing all the time, like hours before rehearsal, hours after. I scaled back my drinking, like all this stuff. And I'm so glad, because they really forced me to become better as a person, a musician. You know, and like that's what you need to be part of. Like, you got to play with people who are better than you, and like, you know, be fucking scared.
Yeah, exactly. Be fucking scared.
Make you better. Yeah,
I love that. So I was going to tell you, I didn't tell you this earlier, but every time, LRS is the oldest rock and roll radio station in Louisville, Kentucky. We were the first FM radio station in 1964. So that's the station you're on right now, and we have a cuss jar, a mason jar, so that anytime anybody cusses, we put money in it, and then we donate it at the end of the month for homelessness charity, so that if we cuss for a good cause, and they can't get mad.
Okay, so I don't feel bad about that now.
No, I'll donate you a couple bucks and you'll be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, Lindsay, is there let's say if people want to check out your work, where do you always send them to online? Where can they go?
I would say Instagram and YouTube. Both are, just look up Drummer Linz, and you'll see daily postings on Insta, obviously, and all sorts of videos on YouTube.
Cool. And you spell it L-I-N-D-Z? Is that
just
right?
Z. L-A-N-Z is in zebra.
L-I-N-Z. So drummer, L-I-N-Z. Okay.
Yep, that's it. And I always say too, if like, I'm sure with you, anyone has questions or need help, advice, just DM me. Like, I'm very active, and I love like I want to be able to help people and give back, and anything I can do to share wisdom or anything, like, it's so important to me, and like I want to be able to do that. So
I agree with you totally, 100%.
Don't like hesitate to hit me up with anything. You know?
You know what I've been doing to kind of help people out in a time of this is if they come to me for lessons now, they always ask what the prices are, and I always say I'm on a sliding scale right now, because I want you to learn, and definitely I don't want to just take your money for no reason. But if you're hurting, I still want you to be able to, you know, because a lot of people are hurting financially in this time, and I do feel like that, you know, I hope I'm wrong when I say this, but I do. They're saying that the resurgence is probably going to come back August through December, and, you know, we're probably going to be locked up for those months too. So I hope that's wrong, but if it's right, you know, right now is a time to hone in on your your practices. It's a time
exactly.
It's a time to help others. It's a time to, do all this cool stuff.
I mean, it'd be nice to make money, but at the same time, and I'm sure for you, it's more important for me that I want to be able to give back and learn.
Same.
Awesome instrument, that is so important to me. Like, especially for girls, like, I'd love to see more chick drummers. I think it's the coolest freaking. Like, move over, boys. Like, we're coming. Like
right.
But
when you're the female drummer, I've said that for a long time.
Yeah. See, there's more. It's happening slowly but surely.
I was going to ask you, too, before we finish up, there's a book that I remember when I said magical things happen, and just every time I'm about to give up, something crazy happens. I ended up on a book cover with Sheila E. On women drum set players, and they put me on the cover. I had no idea that was going to happen.
Okay.
I know. It was like I was about to give it up, and then here's my picture with all my idols, and I'm just like, holy shit. And in fact, I got to meet Sheila E. a couple years ago, which was it was an amazing experience. She autographed my book. But wait, where was I going with this story? Oh, I lost my train of thought. It was about the book. Oh, yes. I was going to talk about how in that book, it researches the history of women drummers throughout prehistoric times till current. And what Angela Smith, who I'm still not for sure if she's kin to Viola Smith, but I think she is somewhere in the family, but she's an author. Yeah. And she found out that actually women were the original drummers. You know this. We were considered the original drummers because men did not play drums back in prehistoric times, really. Women did because they thought it could help with, sorry, my nose is, I've got a cold going on. But they thought it could help with fertility, and women would sit around the campfire and they would help, and they thought it would help with childbirth, and they would do all these cool things. So if you see the women with the bodrums, like sitting around campfires and stuff, like that was a feminine thing. And then up until I think it was like 1400s or 1500s, the church banned women from playing drums. And because of that motion in the church, and it was somewhere overseas, it wasn't here in America, obviously. But because of that exact moment, made people believe that it was more a masculine instrument. And since then, it's been considered a masculine instrument. But women were the original drummers, and we were. And I feel like we're taking that title back.
You know what? Not sound like an idiot. I didn't know we were the OGs.
Really? We are the OGs. Wow. Yes. Okay, so we're just reclaiming our title. Yes.
Oh my God.
As soon as I get done with this interview, I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff. You're going to laugh your ass off in my music video. By the way, you talked about Volkswagens earlier. So I last year bought my dream car. And I said, screw relationships. I'm going to buy my dream car. It's a 73 Volkswagen camper bus. And it's baby blue. And we use it in the video. So when you see the bus in the video, be like, that's Jyn's drum machine right there.
Oh my God. That is fantastic. Good for you, dude.
I know. You know what? I just said, I'm just like you were talking about, man. It's like, you live life and you only live once, and I'm going to live it to the fullest. And if it's the last penny I got, I wanted to buy something that I would have that was awesome, and drive that.
Do that, you can't, money, like I would talk about this even with my dad sometimes, like money's always going to be an issue. You're always, even if you have money, it's still going to be an issue. Sometimes
always.
Fuck it.
Right. More money, more problems, right? It's the truth.
That is very true. Yeah. I agree.
So I'm a big fan of if you got it, spend it. And it will, like you said, it's always in cycles. It's always going to come and go. Yeah. It's always going to be hard times. It's always going to be happy times, and you just got to make the best of that and just keep rocking it and have be spiritual and have some faith that something badass is about to happen.
I agree. I 100% agree with you.
It's so and we're going to leave them on this. I read a thing the other day that said the differences between winners and losers are that winners are always believing a miracle is going to happen. And usually it does because they believe it and it becomes true.
A friggin' man, sister. That is, yes, that's so true.
I know. I love this interview. We've had this big spiritual interview. I feel like a kumbaya sitting around the campfire.
Like namaste, yes.
Yeah. I'm ready for you to come to Kentucky and let's play in the Drumatorium.
I don't want to leave. I just want to stay.
I know. Especially when you see that bus, you're going to want to live in that. It's got a bed in it up top even.
Oh, can you send me a picture of that too?
Yeah, it's all throughout the video. So when you watch the video, you'll be like,
Oh my
oh, that's
God.
the buzz. Yeah.
Oh, that's so rad. Okay.
Yeah. So Lindsay, by the way, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm so thankful we got this opportunity to like get to know each other, and I'm glad you've been on the show, and I wish you much success in everything you do. I'm a big fan, so I'll be like watching on the internet and all that fun stuff, you know.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, thank you for having me. I love doing it. I think you're dope as hell, and
thanks, man.
Do this, you know?
Yeah, so. Well, you know, we'll hopefully in a couple months we're gonna hope that things will get back to normal at some point. But after they get back to normal, or if you do any CD releases, or if you're doing any touring or whatever, you know, feel free to get a hold of me, and we'll check in on occasion because the show goes all the time. So.
Yeah. Oh, I would love that. Let's definitely do that. It was awesome. I'm so glad to be part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. So, in closing, I just want to remind everybody they can find you at Drummer Linz, and it's LINZ.
Yes.
Right?
That is. Yep. That
Instagram. You're really active on Instagram, YouTube, and what was the other one?
Facebook is Lindsay Martin Drummer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm always active. Yeah, those are my socials. So yeah, let's connect. Hit me up.
Yeah, and hit her up for questions about drums. If you've got questions about technique, any of that cool stuff, hit up Lindsay. And watch for her on TomTom.com because we both have been sporadically like teaching lessons here and there.
Yeah,
on
TomTom is great. You had an awesome lesson. Yeah,
I'm always trying to, you know, Lindsay, I said Lindsay, but I meant Mindy will throw you outside the box all the time. She's always like, well, we got this one on Middle Eastern tabla playing, and this one's mixing electronics, and what do you want to do? And I'm always like, I don't know.
It's like what I love with TomTom is like, especially with the lessons, it's a variety.
It is. I love it.
What I love is like, obviously it's chick drummers, which is but it's like, there's so many different topics, you know, not just even drumming per se, the kit, but just like so many other elements that go into drumming. I just, it's so cool to have that, you know, and just learn from it. It's just,
you know, I watched one the other day that was the body drumming where the chick was like dancing, and I'm like, holy crap, I am coordinated, but I ain't that coordinated. Like, you dance around while you're doing it.
It's rad as hell. I'm like, dang, yeah.
Cool. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much again for being on the show.
Thank you. I'm hyped. Thank you.
I'm going to be tuning into your social media and watching everything, and I definitely will send you all those links as soon as we log off here.
Oh my gosh, please.
I will, and respond back to me and let me know what you think of the video, because I think
I will.
You know what? And if you're listening out there in Radio Land, go to my YouTube. It's called the Kentucky Beatniks COVID Hustle Virus Shuffle. And we wrote a line dance about COVID.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh
You're gonna roll,
yeah. Can't wait.
All right, Lindsay, thank you so much for checking in. Yes. And I'm gonna log off for now and tell everybody to have a great groovy Friday and enjoy the weekend.
Yes.